9 signs a woman is silently suffering for you. Old Stoic Wisdom. Sometimes the heart sees what is invisible to the eye. H. Jackson Brown, Jr. Have you ever sensed something wasn't quite right with a woman close to you, like her words and actions don't align, or there's a quiet sorrow behind her smile? Often, when a woman is emotionally invested but can't express it openly, she suffers in silence. It's not always dramatic or obvious. In fact, it's usually the opposite: subtle changes, quiet glances, or withdrawn energy that reveal the most. This video uncovers 9 quiet signs a woman may be enduring emotional pain for your sake, even if she never says a word. These aren't just emotional clues. They reflect age-old Stoic insight into human nature, teaching us to observe, reflect, and respond with calm wisdom. Stick with us until the end. The final sign is the most revealing and one many men overlook. If you're a man who values understanding and emotional intelligence, and you want to learn how to read the signals beneath the surface, this is for you. Hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss content like this again. Let's explore these signs, because sometimes the things unsaid speak the loudest. Sign number 1. She distances herself from you without a clear explanation. She quietly distances herself, and not because she's lost interest, but because being near you unsettles her more than silence ever could. One moment she's present, sharing small laughter or glances, and the next she seems to vanish into her own world, her messages fewer, her tone more measured, her availability suddenly scarce. This isn't rejection, this is self-preservation. Like a woman standing too close to a flame, she's drawn to the warmth, but afraid of being consumed. It's easy to mistake her withdrawal for indifference, but a wiser man sees the truth in her silence. As the Stoics said, "He who angers you conquers you." In the same way, she fights to not let her feelings conquer her. This distance is not a wall, but a trembling shield, her attempt to steady herself in the face of emotions she can't voice. When she cancels a plan or responds late, it's not laziness, it's restraint. Vulnerability terrifies her, especially when the feelings are real. And when you do see her, pay close attention, not just to her words, but to the way her eyes glance at yours when she thinks you're not looking. There, in that stolen moment, is the truth she won't say. As Marcus Aurelius advised, observe what is happening beneath the surface, dive deep into the soul, and learn the essence. Her emotional retreat is not a lack of feeling, but an overflow. She steps back, not to leave, but to cope. You must see the hidden heartbreak in her silence, the kind that chooses absence over pain. She's not playing games. She's protecting herself from a loss she's already imagining. In life, we often assume that silence means the end, but sometimes silence is the beginning of a war within. Think of the veteran who flinches at sudden noise, not because he's weak, but because he's been there before. Similarly, this woman might have loved, lost, and learned, and now she hesitates not out of apathy, but out of wisdom hardened by sorrow. Her distance is not a punishment for you, it's a scar she's carrying into every closeness. Recognize that, and you'll understand her better than any words can explain. And here's where your strength as a man must rise, not to pursue aggressively, but to stand still with awareness, patience, and respect. Don't chase, notice, don't demand, invite safety. A wise man does not reveal all his thoughts at once, said Seneca, and perhaps neither does she. If you can see past the coolness, beyond the silences, you'll realize her heart still speaks, just in a language only the attentive can hear. Now ask yourself, have you seen this before? Has a woman in your life pulled away, not because she stopped caring, but because caring too much frightened her? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight could help another man understand the quiet grief in a woman's heart. Stay tuned for the next sign. It's one that will open your eyes even further. Sign number 2. She seeks your attention through indirect actions. She seeks your attention through indirect actions, subtle signals wrapped in quiet gestures that whisper louder than any spoken confession. A woman silently suffering for you often won't declare her emotions outright, especially if she fears rejection or believes you might not feel the same. Instead, she gently nudges your awareness, hoping you'll recognize the patterns. Perhaps she cracks a clever joke during a group conversation, but watches only you for a smile. Maybe she shares a quote on social media that eerily reflects a moment you shared or a belief you once expressed, and though it seems general, it strikes you as oddly personal. This is no accident. It's deliberate, an invisible thread she's weaving between the two of you, hoping you'll feel its tug. These indirect bids for attention are modern echoes of the ancient Stoic dance between silence and desire, where vulnerability is cloaked in measured action rather than words. Like a seasoned chess player, she moves with caution, placing her emotional pawns strategically, one post, one glance, one random question at a time. You may notice she dresses a little differently when you're around, not to impress the world, but to catch your eye. It's not vanity, it's hope, wrapped in fabric and perfume. She asks about a topic you once mentioned in passing, something insignificant to others but unforgettable to her. These aren't coincidences, they are calculated acts of quiet longing. In her mind, she's playing a solitary game where each move tests whether you'll notice her presence without her having to make a grand reveal. She longs to be seen, not as just another woman in the room, but as the one who lingers in your thoughts after the crowd has faded. And in today's world, filled with distractions, alerts, and endless scrolling, it's all too easy to miss these signs. That's why you, as a man navigating maturity, must sharpen your perception. Stoic wisdom teaches us to read between the lines, to observe the unspoken. The old philosophers didn't chase noise, they listened to silence, because truth often lives there. So when a woman engages in these small, seemingly inconsequential behaviours, recognize that they may hold deeper meaning. Don't brush them off as chance. Consider what it takes for someone to reach out without words, to risk being overlooked while still hoping to be understood. The lesson here is not only about decoding her signs, but also about stepping up when you see them. Life's too short to play passive when connection is staring you in the face. If you sense she's reaching for you in silence, respond not with grand gestures, but with presence. Start a real conversation. Compliment her effort subtly. Mirror her interest with your own. Show her she doesn't have to suffer quietly, that you're man enough to notice without being told. And stay tuned, because the next sign will uncover something even more unexpected, something that may change how you see her entirely. If this resonates with you, if you've ever looked back and realized she was reaching for you in silence, drop this in the comments right now. I see what others miss. Sign number 3. She acts strangely when she's around you. Pay attention. When a woman begins to act strangely around you, nervous laughter, fidgeting with her hair, stuttering over simple words, it's not because she's awkward. It's because you shake her core. You make her heart race and her thoughts scatter. This isn't confusion. This isn't disinterest. It's intensity. It's the weight of emotion crashing into her composure. She wants to seem calm, collected, unbothered, but her body betrays her. The ancient Stoics taught that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca. And that's what's happening here. She's not afraid of you. She's afraid of what you make her feel. That vulnerability, that loss of control, that desire. She's not showing weakness. She's showing a heart in conflict. Her body becomes a battlefield. She crosses her arms, not out of coldness, but to protect what's being stirred inside. She avoids eye contact not because you don't matter, but because you matter too much. She stands near the fire, hoping not to get burned, but still drawn to the heat. If you've seen her giggle nervously, twist her bracelet, or fumble for words, understand this. She's battling a storm she can't explain. These are not coincidences. These are signals. From a woman torn between longing and fear. Her silence is not emptiness, it's volume turned inward. You must wake up and see this for what it is. A woman doesn't get nervous over someone she feels nothing for. No one fakes that kind of instinctive reaction. You've triggered something ancient in her, a primal pull, and she doesn't know whether to flee or stay. That confusion is your advantage if you're man enough to notice it and act with presence. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. If you want to lead in love, you must recognize the signals others miss. Her gestures, her eyes, her silence, all of it is a code, and you're the one meant to decipher it. This is not about playing games. It's about understanding human nature. Mastery of relationships starts with mastery of awareness. What she hides is real. What she fears is rejection. And what she craves, whether she admits it or not, is connection. So step up. Don't dismiss her odd behavior as irrelevant. It's a red flag, but not of warning, of invitation. The great men of old didn't wait for certainty. They acted when others hesitated, and so should you. This moment is your test. Pass it. The battlefield of attraction is silent, invisible, but deadly real, and if you ignore the signs, you'll lose without even knowing you are in the game. This isn't just about love. It's about becoming the kind of man who sees deeply, acts decisively, and lives victoriously. There's no room for hesitation here. She's suffering in silence, and the question is, will you keep her suffering, or will you rise and respond? Leave a comment right now. I choose to see what others ignore. If this opened your eyes, even a little, like, share and subscribe to make sure you never miss the wisdom you need to dominate life, love, and legacy. Sign number 4. She feels jealous but tries to hide it. It's a quiet storm that brews beneath a calm surface, a subtle but unmistakable signal that she's emotionally invested far more than her words will ever confess. Picture this. You're talking about another woman, maybe a colleague or an old friend, and suddenly her eyes shift, her smile tightens, and there's a flicker of something. Sarcasm, dismissiveness, or even an attempt to seem unfazed. But behind that composed exterior, there's a battle between pride and vulnerability. Stoic wisdom tells us, "He who angers you conquers you." And in this context, she's wrestling with the urge to show you she cares, without handing over her emotional power. Often, she'll change the subject or give a quick laugh to disguise the sting she feels, yet her tone might drop an octave, her posture might close off, and these tiny changes speak volumes if you know where to look. Her jealousy is not about control or drama, it's about longing, fear, and the ache of wanting to be enough. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the colour of its thoughts." Her silent suffering is dyed with the colours of affection, insecurity, and hope. She may even cloak her questions in casual tones. So, is she pretty? Or do you talk to her often? But make no mistake, these are quiet probes to understand her place in your world. Her silence is not absence, it's restraint. She's watching, measuring, and internally negotiating what she means to you. This type of quiet jealousy isn't loud or confrontational. It's the kind that comes from depth and dignity, from a place where she hopes you notice without needing to spell it out. That's why the Stoics taught us to observe not just what is said, but what is unsaid. If she didn't care, there would be no reaction at all. So when you see these signs, pause and reflect, not just on her, but on how you've made her feel. In real life, many women suffer quietly because they fear looking desperate or clingy. In their silence, they preserve their self-respect, but it doesn't make the emotional toll any lighter. If you're wise enough to see through the veil, consider showing her she matters in ways that are subtle, sincere, and steady. Perhaps you can offer her the reassurance she won't ask for, but clearly hopes for. As the great philosopher Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Her concealed jealousy is part of her emotional trial, and recognizing it might be your moment of growth too. If you've ever noticed this in someone, or felt it yourself, share your thoughts in the comments. Your experience might help someone else see more clearly. And remember, what's hidden isn't absent. Pay attention. The next sign will take you even deeper. If you've ever seen that quiet shift in her eyes, the subtle retreat behind a smile, you've witnessed a depth of emotion most men miss. Recognizing her silent suffering is not just awareness, it's maturity. Comment this if you understand the weight of what's unspoken. I choose to see what others ignore. Your insight might be the sign someone else needs to wake up. Let's raise the standard. Sign number 5. She clings to the memories you shared. She clings to the memories you shared, not just the grand gestures or milestones, but the tiny, almost forgettable moments that most would overlook. Perhaps you cracked a joke over coffee months ago, or touched her shoulder when she was feeling down. And now, seemingly out of nowhere, she recalls it with striking clarity. It might seem random to you, even trivial, but to her, these fragments are sacred. They are pieces of a story she silently replays in her mind, not because she's stuck in the past, but because it's the only way she can stay connected to you without revealing the depth of her longing. This quiet remembering is not mere nostalgia. It's an emotional anchor, a subtle yet powerful indication that your presence lingers within her, even when you're far apart. You might catch it in the way her voice softens when she recounts something you said, or in the slight pause she takes, as if reliving that moment all over again. These are not rehearsed tales meant to impress you. They are echoes of feelings she cannot say out loud. The old Stoics believed that true strength lies not in detachment, but in the mastery of emotion. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." For her, the happiness she extracts from these memories is bittersweet. She's trying to stay strong, to endure the silence and the distance, but she's also silently suffering, because these memories stir hope for a future that perhaps hasn't materialized. Her mind builds a sanctuary around these small but significant moments because they keep the warmth of your connection alive. Like a warrior who wears scars beneath his armor, she bears the weight of what's unspoken with a quiet grace. And if you're wise enough to notice this sign, you'll begin to see just how deeply you affect her. In today's world of constant distractions and shallow attention, such devotion is rare. We swipe, scroll, and move on so quickly that we often miss the depth in someone's eyes, the unspoken loyalty hidden behind a smile, or the quiet heartbreak masked by light conversation. If a woman remembers the little things you shared, it means you've touched something deep within her, something real. This isn't about being sentimental. It's about recognizing the quiet ways people show they care when words fail them. When she holds on to these memories, she's not just reminiscing. She's investing her emotions, her time, her inner world around who you are and what you meant to her. And though she may never admit it outright, these recollections are often her way of whispering, "You mattered. You still do." So what can you do with this knowledge? Pay attention. Don't brush off her stories or treat her memories as random chatter. If she's choosing to share them with you, she's offering a window into her emotional world. Honor that. Lean in, listen, and look deeper. Ask yourself whether you're present enough to create more moments worth remembering. In the end, wisdom isn't just about understanding others. It's about knowing when to act with compassion, especially when someone's love for you shows up not in grand declarations, but in the quietest corners of their heart. And as we move to the next sign, keep this truth close. What is unspoken often carries the greatest weight. Stay alert. What comes next is even more revealing. Sign number 6. She hesitates before replying to your messages. You've seen it before. She's online. She's seen your message. But there's silence. No response for minutes. Sometimes hours. It's not because she's playing games. It's not because she's ignoring you. It's because she's wrestling with her own mind. Her fingers hover over the screen, typing, deleting, retyping. Every single word she sends you is filtered through a storm of fear, hope, and vulnerability. She's not disinterested. She's terrified. terrified that the wrong word could expose the depth of her feelings, that she might reveal how much she actually cares, that her mask might crack. That's why the message you get often feels short, flat, even cold. But don't be fooled. Behind that one-liner are 10 drafts she erased, each one revealing more than she dared to admit. Stoic wisdom tells us, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Zrania Epictetus. And here she is, valuing your presence, your attention, your opinion, so much that she loses control over how to speak to you. That's not weakness. That's the raw power of deep emotional investment. It shows just how much you affect her. You've become the battlefield where her stoic mask and her trembling heart collide. Watch her when she talks to you face to face. Notice the tiny pause before her words come out. It's the same story. That hesitation, that pause, that breath she takes, that's the weight of everything she's not saying. She suffers in silence. And the tragedy? Most men miss it. They brush it off. They think she's cold, disinterested, or playing hard to get. They don't see the storm raging behind her calm eyes. They don't see the war between her longing and her fear. If you've ever made a woman feel so much that she's scared to speak freely, you are not ordinary to her. You are the exception. You've pierced her armor. And yet, instead of recognizing this rare emotional signal, most men run, misinterpret, or push her away. Don't be one of them. Be the man who sees. Be the man who understands. Be the man who gives her space to feel safe, not judged. Because once she feels that safety, once she feels that you see her, truly see her, not just her words, but the silence between them, she will open in ways you never imagined. Remember this. Her hesitation is not distance, it's depth. Modern life teaches men to chase what's obvious, what's loud, what's easy, but real power lies in the quiet, in the subtle, in what's unspoken. That's where the truth lives. The old Stoics knew this. They taught that what is soft and hidden often holds the greatest strength. He who is brave is free. Zrania, and bravery, for her, is writing a message to the man who holds her heart in his hands, not knowing whether you'll crush it or protect it. If you see her hesitation, respond with clarity, with calm, with presence. That's how you lead. That's how you win. Now, if this hits something in you, don't let it just pass. Like this. Comment below. I choose to see the truth behind silence. And if you're ready for the next sign, the one that reveals everything, hit subscribe now. Because what's coming next will change the way you see women forever. Sign number 7. She tries hard to seem indifferent around you. At first glance, this kind of woman might appear emotionally distant, detached, or disinterested. Her words may come off as polite but clipped, her tone neutral, and her demeanour reserved. To the untrained eye, it could seem like she simply doesn't care, like you're no different from any other passing presence in her day. But a deeper look reveals subtle signs that tell a very different story. It's in the small cues, the slight stiffness in her posture when you enter the room, the way her eyes flit away at the very moment a gaze might reveal too much, or how her speech grows unusually measured when a conversation skirts the edge of something personal. These are not the mannerisms of someone unaffected. Rather, they are the defense mechanisms of someone who feels too much and is unsure whether it's safe to show it. The ancient Stoics, with their deep grasp of human emotion beneath the surface of self-control, remind us we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And here, in this restrained woman's silence, is exactly that kind of imagined suffering, deep, internal, often invisible to those who aren't looking closely. Her indifference is not a sign of rejection, it's a shield. It's armor she wears not to mislead, but to protect her own heart from being broken. This facade is forged from past wounds, quiet disappointments, and moments when vulnerability led to pain. So she wears emotional distance like a cloak, hoping it will shelter her from the possibility of getting hurt again. What many men miss, especially those between 35 and 70 who have lived through their own versions of love, heartbreak, and personal reinvention is that this coldness can be misread entirely. In fact, the quieter she is, the louder her silence speaks. It says she's thinking, feeling, battling something inside. Her body language betrays the truth she's trying to hide. She might pull away slightly even as she stays in conversation, keep her face expressionless, even as her eyes soften, or maintain just enough distance to protect a heart that wants to leap forward but dares not. There's a deep paradox at play here. She wants closeness, but fears what it might unravel within her. Like a dam holding back floodwaters, one small crack in her composure might lead to emotions she's not ready to face, much less reveal. This behaviour is not unique to her. In fact, it is deeply human. How many of us have smiled politely while our insides churned with uncertainty or buried feelings we didn't know how to express? In modern life, with its constant pressure to appear composed, successful, and unbothered, many women and men become skilled at hiding what hurts. A woman who acts indifferent toward you might be doing so not because you don't matter, but because you matter more than she's comfortable admitting. Her silence could be filled with internal dialogue, questioning whether she's safe to trust, to hope, or to let herself be seen. Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher whose insights transcend time, once said, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." For her, maintaining that calm exterior is her way of surviving emotional intensity. She has likely built routines and emotional boundaries that keep her steady, and anything, or anyone, that stirs her feelings might threaten that carefully curated balance. You see, she's not trying to manipulate or play games. She's trying to preserve her equilibrium, and it takes strength for her to maintain that illusion of calm, especially when her emotions threaten to break through the surface. As a man of experience, possibly having gone through a divorce, lost love, or even rediscovered intimacy later in life, you might recognize this pattern. It's not uncommon in today's world, where emotional self-protection is almost instinctive. The wisdom, then, lies not in reacting to the surface behavior, but in perceiving what lies beneath. A wise man doesn't retreat at the first sign of coldness, nor does he press too hard. He observes. He listens, not just to words, but to silences, hesitations, and shifts in energy. He understands that love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, conflicted, and hidden behind practiced indifference. So how should you respond when you suspect a woman is silently struggling with emotions she can't voice? First and foremost, with patience. Gentle consistency becomes your strength. It's not about grand gestures, but about steady presence. Show her that you are not easily shaken, that you can hold space for both her silence and her eventual truth. It's in the quiet moments, sharing coffee without words, a simple text asking how she's doing, remembering the small things she mentioned, that trust is built. If she flinches from intimacy, don't take it as a personal slight. Recognize it as her armor, reacting to the possibility of closeness. Respect her emotional pace. Let her know that her feelings, even the unspoken ones, are safe with you. This, in many ways, is where Old Stoic wisdom meets modern masculinity. It's not about being stoic in the way pop culture sometimes misunderstands, emotionless or detached, but in the way the Stoics intended, present, discerning, composed, yet deeply empathetic. Emotional discipline paired with emotional intelligence. When you bring that kind of energy into a relationship, especially with a woman who's unsure whether she can trust her feelings, you give her the very thing she lacks, emotional safety. That's when the armor might start to come off. That's when conversations grow deeper, silences become more comfortable, and a quiet bond begins to form. In the end, it's not about fixing her or forcing anything. It's about understanding. Just as you may have carried your own silent struggles, she's carrying hers. And maybe, just maybe, your gentle presence will remind her that she doesn't have to carry them alone. The world is full of people walking around armored in indifference, and the strongest among us are those who can see beyond it without judgment. If you've ever encountered a woman like this, or perhaps even recognized this tendency in yourself, reflect on what it means to feel too much and show too little. Emotional restraint doesn't mean emotional absence. It often means the opposite. So the next time you notice a woman holding back, appearing nonchalant when your presence seems to stir something in her, don't rush to conclusions. Watch closely. Listen intently. Respond kindly. Because when someone pretends not to care, the truth is usually the opposite. They care more than they're ready to admit. And your response in that moment might not just change the course of your relationship, it might help her feel seen for the first time in a long time. That's the quiet power of discernment, patience, and old Stoic wisdom applied to the complexities of modern love. Let that be the lesson, and perhaps the beginning of a new understanding. Sign number 8. She overreacts to little things you do. At first glance, it might seem like she's just being dramatic or overly sensitive, but there's a deeper truth at play, one rooted in emotion, vulnerability, and unspoken longing. Have you ever made a harmless joke or thrown out a casual comment, only to be met with an unexpectedly intense reaction, an eye roll, a cold shoulder, or a sharp retort that feels disproportionate to the moment? This isn't just moodiness or irrational behaviour, it's a signal. You see, when a woman is emotionally invested but hasn't fully opened up, her feelings can leak out sideways. She's not trying to make you feel guilty or confused. Her heart is simply louder than her logic in those moments. Perhaps you mentioned another woman in passing and noticed her stiffen, withdraw, or make a sarcastic jab. Or maybe you asked her to join you in something simple, and her face lit up like she'd been waiting for it, only to quickly compose herself as if it meant nothing. These seemingly small reactions are actually emotional flare signals, flashing in moments she can't quite control. In ancient Stoic philosophy, there's a concept called apatheia, not apathy in the modern sense, but rather a state of being unshaken by emotion. Yet even the Stoics acknowledged that passion, if hidden or suppressed too long, will find a crack to escape through. That's exactly what's happening here. Her outbursts, her quiet silences, her subtle digs or unguarded smiles, all of it is evidence that you stir something powerful in her, something she doesn't fully understand or perhaps feels she shouldn't be feeling. In today's world, where emotional restraint is often misread as strength and vulnerability mistaken for weakness, many women feel they have to swallow their feelings rather than express them directly. But feelings have weight, and eventually even the strongest will can't carry them without signs of strain. So when she overreacts, don't just focus on the surface, go deeper. Ask yourself, why did that small moment spark such a strong response? What does it mean that your actions, your words, even your presence can cause a shift in her emotional weather? These are not the signs of indifference. These are the signs of someone silently suffering because she cares more than she lets on. In modern relationships, especially for men between 35 and 70 who have seen a fair share of life's emotional tides, it's easy to overlook these subtleties or write them off as emotional volatility. But if you want to understand women, not just know them, but truly understand them, you have to listen beyond what's spoken and observe what's quietly shown. What should you do when you see these signs? Don't mock them, don't dismiss them, and don't push her to get over it. Instead, recognize the weight your presence holds in her world. Speak with more care. Make your intentions clearer. Show that you're emotionally available, not just physically present. Because when a woman is silently suffering, reacting strongly to little things, it means she's already emotionally intertwined with you, often more than she dares to admit. These are the moments where a man grounded in wisdom, in awareness, can step forward not to fix her, but to hold space for her, to meet her where she is without judgment. That's what strength looks like, and that understanding will lead you directly into the heart of the next sign, one that reveals everything. So stay sharp, because what comes next might just change how you see her forever. Sign number 9. She avoids touching you even in the most natural moments. She avoids touching you even in the most natural, seemingly innocent moments. And that, my friend, is no accident. It's not indifference, nor is it a sign she dislikes you. In fact, the truth is often the opposite. This is not distance for distance's sake, but emotional restraint in its most quietly intense form. She doesn't hesitate to shake hands with others. She doesn't shy away from a playful pat or casual hug with them. But when it comes to you, her body language rewrites itself. A handshake becomes a hurdle. A light touch becomes a calculated risk. A hug? That's a storm she can't afford to summon. Why? Because touch, especially when it's with someone who moves her emotionally, isn't harmless for her. It's revealing, it's dangerous, and above all, it's honest. Her avoidance of you is not because she wants less, it's because she feels more. She keeps her hands to herself because her heart is betraying her, and she knows that even a brush of the fingers might be enough to expose what she's fighting to keep hidden. Watch carefully next time you're near her. Does she cross her arms just as you approach? Does she instinctively step back half a pace, only to quickly smile and try to act like she didn't? These aren't coincidences. These are flickers of internal conflict, the kind that can only come from emotional overload. A woman's body is often the first place her truth surfaces, long before her words catch up. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, people are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. What she's running from isn't you. It's the impact you have on her. It's the overwhelming thought that if she lets down her guard for even a second, her emotions will betray her, and everything she's carefully buried will come rushing to the surface. And here's where your experience matters. A seasoned man, one who's lived enough, loved enough, and lost enough, knows what hidden affection looks like. You don't need declarations. You don't need loud confessions. You need to see what's happening beneath the surface. There's a particular flicker in her eyes when she looks at you, momentary, fleeting, but unmistakable. That flicker? That's the storm she's hiding. That's silent suffering in real time. It's the contradiction between how she acts and what her eyes reveal that tells you everything you need to know. She may pull away, but she's not trying to disappear. She's holding herself together because you matter more than she ever expected. And the more she feels, the more she fears. Understand this. When a woman feels deeply but chooses silence, it's not weakness, it's composure. It's a kind of inner nobility forged in restraint. In an age where everything is loud, where oversharing is confused with authenticity, her quiet self-control is rare. She's not playing games, she's protecting her dignity. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's her strength, and now it's your turn to show yours. But be careful. This isn't an invitation to push or pry. It's a call to be still, to lead with presence, to become the kind of man who creates emotional safety without needing to be told what's wrong. She doesn't need fixing. She needs to know you see her, truly see her, without her needing to spell it out. And that's where the modern man too often fails. He mistakes silence for indifference, distance for disinterest. But you're older, wiser. You've walked through life long enough to understand that some of the most powerful emotions wear the quietest masks. This is your moment not to act like an impatient boy demanding answers, but to rise as a grounded man who respects complexity. Respect her space, not because you're afraid, but because you understand. Give her the freedom to come closer in her own time, because that's when the connection becomes real, unforced, and lasting. Let's be real. Any man can chase. It takes zero skill to pursue a woman who's already open. But to recognize when a woman is suffering silently for you, when she's doing everything she can not to reveal how much you mean to her, that requires wisdom, emotional awareness, and strength that doesn't seek to dominate, but to hold space. When you notice her subtle withdrawals, the shoulder she doesn't offer, the hug she avoids, the accidental brush she pulls away from, it means you've touched something deeper in her. She doesn't act this way with others because others don't threaten her emotional control. But you crack her armor. That's not rejection. That's a sign that she feels more than she can express. This is real life, not a romance novel. People carry wounds. Women, especially those who felt deeply before, may not easily show what they feel again. They learn to protect their hearts behind walls of poise and deflection. And sometimes, the only man they fear is the one who might actually matter, the one who might actually see them, scars and all. That's you. So now the ball's in your court. Will you play the fool and misinterpret her restraint as rejection? Or will you recognize it for what it is, a storm waiting behind the dam? So here's your call to action, and it's not just for show. If you've ever seen this sign, this deliberate withdrawal, this careful dance around even the smallest touch, comment below. I've seen this signal. Own that moment, share your experience, and if you've ever felt that invisible wall, that quiet resistance that somehow spoke louder than words, hit that like button. Because if you're reading this, odds are you've known what it feels like to stand in front of a woman who's not just holding back affection, she's holding back everything. And you deserve to understand what that means. Subscribe right now, not just to keep getting insight like this, but because every man deserves to rise above the guesswork, to stop fumbling through moments of emotional depth and start mastering them. This isn't about manipulating women. This is about understanding them, and in doing so, becoming the kind of man who women trust with their vulnerability, not because you demanded it, but because your presence made them feel safe enough to offer it. The man who sees unspoken truths is rare, and when you become that man, you'll find that you don't need to chase love, because love, real love, begins to unfold in your presence. So remember, when a woman avoids touching you but touches others freely, it means one thing. You're not just another man to her, you're the man. And if you're sharp enough, grounded enough, wise enough to see that, then you already know what to do next. Thanks so much for sticking around till the end, my friend. If you've made it this far, you clearly care about understanding what often goes unsaid, and that already sets you apart. Now that you've learned these 9 subtle signs, a woman might be silently suffering for you. Don't just move on like nothing happened. This isn't just trivia, this is real life. These are emotional signals many people overlook, and that ignorance can cost relationships, trust, and emotional connection. Every glance, every pause, every time she holds back, that could be her way of holding in pain she doesn't feel safe enough to speak out loud. It might not look dramatic, but it's real. And when you tune into those signs, you're not just becoming more emotionally intelligent, you're becoming someone who can truly be there for others. So here's my honest advice. Pay attention. Don't wait for someone to break down before you show up. If you sense someone is carrying more than they're saying, don't pressure them, but don't ignore it either. Small, thoughtful actions can mean everything. A kind word, a little patience, or simply being present can offer more comfort than you think. If this video helped you see things differently, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. I've got more content coming that dives into human behavior, emotional insight, and timeless wisdom that helps us live with more awareness and compassion. Drop a comment below. Have you ever noticed any of these signs in someone close to you? Or maybe you felt them yourself? Let's talk about it. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Until then, stay sharp, stay kind, and remember, sometimes the deepest feelings are the quietest ones. Take care.